Today I will be ranking nearly every method to obtain shiny Pokemon based on how difficult they are to perform. Yo, what is up you guys? It's Dominator here and I'm back with another tier list video in, not the last one. The last one I ranked my thoughts on the shiny Pokemon from Generation 2, but the one before that, I ranked every single Pokemon in terms of how hard they are to get shiny legitimately. In this video, we're going to be doing something a little different, but similar, I guess. A lot of you guys wanted to know my thoughts on specific Pokemon. There were a lot of comments on like, oh, what about shiny Chansey from the Safari Zone? That's really rare. Why isn't that hard to get? Or what about the shiny Sinjo Ruins? Why aren't those hard to get? That video was only really ranking shiny Pokemon based on, in general, how hard they are to obtain legitimately, not specific methods of obtaining them. In this video, however, I will be going through every shiny hunting method, every way you can get a shiny Pokemon, and ranking them based on how hard they are to hunt, to like perform, to get shinies using these methods. Now, before we start that, I need to address the elephant in the room. A lot of you guys were really vocal about this. It was a really controversial topic in my last tier list video about my free category. I have my, it's kind of hard to scroll through this, but essentially this is the breedable category, and there are some Pokemon in it that you guys didn't agree with. You thought that Pokemon like Gyarados and like Dratini, Gible, Haxorus, Ponyta, all of those you thought should have been in the free category. And here is what I have to say about that. Obviously, we have the free category right here, and it's just Shedinja. Breedable is the easiest category. That is the easiest tier for the tier list. The only reason I made a free tier is specifically for Shedinja, because that is the only shiny in Pokemon that you get 2 shinies for having 1. And I'm pretty sure that is the only way to get shiny Shedinja, is to essentially get 2 shinies for the price of 1. Breedable should be treated as the easiest category anyway. Even though it's called breedable, if there are easier methods to obtain those shiny Pokemon, they are still going to be in breedable category. Just because it's in breedable doesn't mean you have to breed for it. You can get it in easier ways, but breedable was my general easiest category. So that is my explanation as to why Gyarados is in breedable, but not free. Yes, you can get a free shiny Gyarados in the Generation 2 games and Heart Gold, Soul Silver without having to hunt it. It is a free shiny, but those are pretty much specific games only, and I mean, breedable is supposed to be the easiest tier. I just made the free category specifically for Shedinja and no other reason. So there is my explanation on that. Hopefully that cleared things up for you. Breedable is the easiest category, which is why Pokemon that have guaranteed shinies are also in breedable, because that's just the easiest tier. So hopefully that explained it for you guys. Before we begin with this tier list though, make sure you guys leave a like on the video and subscribe if you're new. You guys showed a lot of support for the last video, but if you are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Dominator, and I do a lot of shiny hunting, and I guess now we do tier lists. But if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. It's totally free. It helps me out a ton. We're getting really close to 7,000 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for that. And yeah, also comment below what like your favorite shiny hunting method is, and you know, if you think I'm wrong in these tiers. Let's get right into this. There are a few rules for this tier list. Rule number 1, if there is a glitch or exploit that you can do that can alter shiny odds, specifically alter shiny odds, that will not be on the list. So there's no cute charm glitch, no RNG abuse, no using 8F to guarantee shinies, no using the shiny Ditto glitch in Gen 1. All of those are out because those are unintended methods that completely alter shiny odds. Rule number 2, Pokemon Go is completely absent from this tier list. Why is Pokemon Go completely absent from this tier list? Well, there are so many different shiny odds and ways to get shinies in Pokemon Go that could get its own tier list. It'll get super messy. Like, they change shiny odds all the time in Pokemon Go. There are Pokemon that you can get shiny in Pokemon Go that you can't even send into main series. There's like the Shadow Shinies, the Spindaforms. There's all the raids, like there's different levels of rarity for raids. There's all like research tasks. There's just regular Pokemon that have higher shiny chances. There's community days. It would just get way too messy if I also included Pokemon Go in this tier list, so that will be excluded. If you do want to see a tier list on Pokemon Go, though, in terms of how easy it is to get certain shinies in that game, leave a comment below, let me know. If you are curious, though, I would rank community days in Pokemon Go in like the super duper easy category. That's like stupid, but whatever. I want to say that's all the rules. I completely forget if that is. Also, here is the tier list if you're wondering. We have all of these methods. I will explain all these methods. There are certain Pokemon I will focus on, but if you notice, I'm not being specific with every single Pokemon because it will get way too difficult, way too hard, way too messy of a tier list. There will be certain Pokemon I will highlight when discussing the method, but for the most part, we are only discussing the methods in general. Also, I apologize if I missed a valid method of shiny hunting. I tried to go through every possible way to get shinies and figure out what would count. There are also certain things like, say, you're soft resetting for a shiny. There are so many different levels of soft resets. There are so many different levels of random encounters. And then on top of that, there's so many different ways to boost your shiny odds. There's the full odds 1 in 8192, full odds 1 in 4096. There's shiny charm odds. Those base odds will count as the same thing, but they will be separated between, say, random encounters or soft resetting or something like that. So it'll be a little different in that regard, but for the most part, base shiny odds in terms of like 1 in 4096, 1 in 8192, 1 in 1365 if you have the shiny charm, those will all remain the same. We're not going to split everything amongst every single different shiny odd you can get because this is already going to take a while to make. Even though there's like barely any images on this, this is still going to take a while to rank because there's a lot to discuss in this. But if you look at the tier list, I have the standard 5 tiers. I didn't want to make it too complicated, but essentially we have, are we even shiny hunting at this point? This is the tier that I typically stay away from because, in my opinion, I enjoy shiny hunting because of the rarity factor of shinies. It's really exciting to get something super rare, and some methods, they just kind of take that away. Like, I will give an example of Pokemon Go community days. Those have like a 1 in 20 shiny chance, and it just gets to the point where you play for a couple hours and you get like 30 shinies, and there's no excitement in that for me at that point because it's not really rare, so I don't really see the point of going for it. But regardless, this is not a tier list of opinions. This is a tier list of what I think are like actually easy methods and hard methods. So are we even shiny hunting at this point? These are like the easiest of the easiest ways to get shinies. A little broken in my opinion to get shinies, takes away the rarity of shinies in my opinion. Next up we have too easy. Now this is a tier list that is, you know, it's really easy to start. Like, this would be my way to, if someone was really scared of shiny odds and didn't know how to get shinies at all, I would probably teach them these ways because they're not like stupid easy that there's really no point of shinies, but they're easy enough to like teach someone who's new to the game and give them the thrill of shiny hunting for the first time. So that is the too easy category. Then we have the middle ground, the valid hunting method. This is like standard, like it's not going to take you super long, but it could take a while if you get unlucky, and typically full odds kind of stuff like that. Full odds hunting or just simply like encounters or resets. Typically something that would be kind of slow, but not like really hard, like say Masuda Method for example. It's not like super hard, but you know, depending on luck, depending on time, it could be hard. So it's just kind of the middle ground. Next up we have a bit difficult. These are the shiny hunts that a lot of beginners probably would stay away from, but for like veteran hunters this would probably be not that big of a deal. So it's just kind of hard, pretty much just slightly harder versions of standard shiny hunts. Next, we have the hardest tier. No sane person will attempt this. Now, this is the tier that is like, there are way easier methods to get shiny Pokemon, so like, why do this? A lot of people enjoy tedious hunts just because of how rewarding it is to get the shiny in the end. In my opinion, this would be a tier that I would stay away from unless the Pokemon you're hunting for, that is the only way to get that Pokemon. So that is pretty much what that tier says. It's most people would not attempt these, but if you do and you get a shiny, it's probably like one of the coolest things ever. So that is the tier list. And let's get right into the ranking. So to start off the ranking, I think I put these in rough order for when these shiny hunting methods like got introduced. So starting off with Gen 1, I put Gen 1 as its own method of hunting because there are different ways to get shinies in Gen 1. They have like random encounters, fishing, soft resets, all that is there. But Gen 1 is just slightly different, and you can't really use all the methods, and you have to go about them differently, so that I decided to group it all into one hunting method. So, for example, Generation 1, you cannot hunt for random grass encounter Pokemon. The IVs or DVs, I should say, just will not line up. The way it works is, Shinies in Generation 2 are determined based on their DVs, which are pretty much IVs, so I'll probably just keep calling them IVs from now on. They are determined by their IVs. If you get a certain set combination of IVs, it can result in a shiny Pokemon, and that translates through Generation 1. If you get a Pokemon in Generation 1 that has those same IV spreads, when you send it to Gen 2, or even in Pokemon Bank to Generation 7, if it's a virtual console, it will be shiny. So you can shiny hunt in Generation 1, but you cannot do random encounters because the IV spreads just don't work that well. The Game Boys were only capable of so much, so they couldn't get physically every combination of IVs possible. So random encounters, you cannot get shinies. You can pretty much only get shinies from soft reset methods, as in like a legendary, game corner, gift Pokemon, and then also NPC trades you can get shiny, and then fishing encounters you can get shiny. I'm pretty sure that's it. If there is something else, let me know. Also, you can use the Mew glitch to essentially hunt any shiny. The Mew glitch is valid to get a shiny, because that somehow doesn't count as a random grass encounter. So if you do the Mew glitch correctly, if you know exactly how the Mew glitch works, you can effectively hunt for any shiny in Gen 1 in the Generation 1 game. So with all that knowledge said, I think Generation 1, I think I'm gonna put it as a bit difficult. I don't really, I guess it really depends on what you're going for. I think definitely Mew glitch would be 100% a bit difficult. And then I'd say a legendary is probably pretty easy because you can just chuck a Master Ball at it and check its stats. But for the most part, you check the stats of the Pokemon, and you have to like pretty much write down every combination of stats that can result in a shiny for like a lot of different levels, because if it's a lower level Pokemon, even if it's the right stats, it might not be shiny. You have to essentially level it up to level 50 using rare candies in order for it to be accurate, and if it still matches by then, you will know it's shiny. So it's like, it's pretty much a valid hunting method, but with the added bonus of having to check the stats, level them up, you know, memorize the stats, have something written down about all the stats of the Pokemon you're going for. The only exception would be probably the legendaries, because you don't have to level them up any higher than they are. You can just check the stats and see right away. But they don't show up as shiny, obviously, because there's no shinies in Generation 1 technically, so no matter what, you will have to check their stats, and it could just get a little tedious that way, so a bit difficult, but nothing too crazy. Next up, we have the guaranteed shiny Pokemon. Now, Gyarados is back. Woo, look at that, Gyarados. Hey, guys, guess what? Gyarados is in the really easy category this time. Are you happy? Better be happy. No, but in all seriousness, guaranteed shiny Pokemon, for me personally, I don't really count them as a shiny I hunted for because they're just guaranteed. I like encountering the shiny myself after like so many times over. All of a sudden, it's just a different color. It's just way more exciting. But I mean, it's valid. You can get shinies this way. They're all legitimate. It counts. But basically, all these Pokemon are essentially Lake of Rage Gyarados, the Gible and Dratini in Black 2, White 2, depending on your version, the shiny Haxorus in Black 2, White 2, and I think, so there's the Ponyta and Arceus. That's a new one. There might be one or two I'm missing, but essentially there's a set number of shiny Pokemon that are guaranteed. that throughout your playthrough, you can get them. Obviously, like, some of them are pretty hard to get, like Haxorus. I think you have to complete the full Pokedex in order to get Haxorus, and there's some that are really easy, like Lake of Rage Gyarados, where you just encounter it halfway through the game. So, obviously, are we even shiny hunting at this point? No, we're not. We're just getting a shiny handed to us. So, I mean, if you're all for that, that's more power to you. Next up, we have just random encounters. Now, I'm just gonna put this in the solid valid hunting method. Obviously, it varies throughout every generation. Like, I personally think Generation 3 is the most fun to do random encounters, because if you give yourself a White Flute and a Pokemon with the ability Illuminate, you can get random encounters ridiculously fast. Even with the 1 in 8192 odds, you could get shinies relatively quickly. Generation 2, it's a little slower. Like, it all changes, and then it's like totally different depending on if you have shiny charm, if the odds are different, and you know, it's just like, it's pretty much the standard base hunting method rate. So obviously it's gonna be in the valid hunting method. Obviously there are specific Pokemon that are harder to get using this. If, say, you're going for a 1% encounter rate, that is ridiculously hard. So if you're specifically going for that, that would be like no sane person would attempt this. But at the same time, it's like, it's essentially the same method. You're just gonna phase a few more times, so you'll just have to get more shinies. But for the sake of this tier list, it's gonna be valid hunting method. Next up, we have random encounters, but with Repel Trick. Now, this is a Repel icon. I'm gonna apologize about the cropping of these images. I just kind of got some images, screenshotted some things from my own videos, just looked up Google images of certain icons and stuff, and just kind of all cropped them into squares. So that's a Repel, if you were wondering. But this is for the random encounter Repel Trick. I'm just going to put it in valid hunting method because it's very similar to random encounters. It's like exactly the same pretty much. The difference with Repel Trick is that you essentially lead with a Pokemon that is a similar level or higher level than the Pokemon you're going for. That's a lie, actually. It's a similar level or a lower level than the Pokemon you're going for, but high enough level that the Repel will get rid of some other Pokemon that are lower level, and you can essentially increase your chances of getting a certain shiny from a specific route. So for example, in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, there is Island Scan. Now, Island Scan, you get like you scan QR codes for an hour. You can encounter like said Pokemon based on where you're scanning on what day of the week. You can get different Pokemon that you can shiny hunt for. That method actually isn't on this list, and I would probably just do the same thing as like random encounters or Repel Trick. But essentially, in one of the routes in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, you can get Bulbasaur from Island Scan, and it is higher level than any other Pokemon on that route. So the way Repel works is it will repel every Pokemon out except for the Pokemon that is equal to or higher than the level of the Pokemon in the front of your party. So you can do a 100% Repel Trick for Bulbasaur because Bulbasaur is already a higher level than everything else on the route. So you lead with a Pokemon that matches the level of Bulbasaur, and you just only get Bulbasaur from then on out. Hopefully this all makes sense, but the reason why Repel Trick is in valid hunting method is because it's essentially the same. The only time it gets really tedious is if you're going for something that's like a 1%. So even if you get a 100% Repel Trick for a 1% Pokemon, since that is a 1% Pokemon, the encounter rate is like ridiculously slow. Like, it could take upwards of like a half hour to get an encounter. I have seen people do 100% Repel Tricks. Those would be between a bit difficult and no sane person would attempt this. It really just depends on what Pokemon you're going for. And there are some instances where Repel Trick doesn't even work at all because there's just no Pokemon that are higher level than other Pokemon. They're all equal level, so you can't repel half of them out. But yeah, we're just gonna keep it even with the valid hunting method with random encounters. Next up, we have soft resets. Now, same, this is a very standard shiny hunting method. Basically, you save in front of the Pokemon you're trying to encounter, and then when you encounter it, if it's not shiny, you reset and do it again. This is standard for most starter Pokemon and most legendaries. There are other Pokemon here and there that can be soft reset, like Rotom in the Old Chateau, Drifloon Valley Windworks, so on and so forth. But for the most part, it's mainly for legendaries and starters. It's kind of a slow method depending on who you ask. I think personally in Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, it is the slowest it could possibly be. So if you're gonna do a soft reset hunt, I would stay away from those games specifically, because the load times in those games take forever. Ruby and Sapphire, you can soft reset, and it takes like 5 seconds to do a soft reset in Ruby and Sapphire. Those games are ridiculous, and that would be pretty much the same as random encounters, which is why I put it in valid hunting method. It can be slow, it can be really tedious for certain things, but it can also be really fast for certain things. I don't know if I explained this already, but there are going to be other Pokemon specifically that do require soft resets to obtain, but since their methods are like a lot different, they're going to be in their own tiers. So keep that in mind. Even though technically speaking you would be soft resetting for them, they might not be under the soft reset category. Next up, we have fishing encounters. Now, I mean, it's the same as random encounters. The only difference is you pretty much have to time when you get the encounter. You have to wait. Sometimes you don't get a bite. It's a little easier once Sticky Hold and Suction Cups becomes a thing in Generation 3, in Emerald specifically, and then Generation 4 onward. It's essentially you have to hope you get a bite, and then you have to time it right, but it's just like a slightly slower than random encounters, but you know, for the most part it's pretty much the same. I will say in Fire Red and Leaf Green though, you don't have to time it right. You just wait for it to bite or not get a bite, and you don't have to time it. You can just sit there and wait and have it be on the hook for a very long time. So Fire Red and Leaf Green are probably the easiest games to do fishing encounters in. Other than that, they're pretty much the same in every other game. Next up, we have Unaltered Egg Hatching. So this is essentially hatching for an egg. A lot of people will call this full odds egg hatching, but I'm just gonna say not altered odds because we also are gonna include Shiny Charm for this. This is just egg hatching with no Masuda method. We're gonna put this on, I might put this no sane person will attempt this, honestly. That's a bit harsh. If I had a borderline tier, I'd probably put it in borderline, but we're not gonna do that for the sake of this video. We'll just put it in no sane person will attempt this because it's essentially like the same as random encounters, the same as soft resets, the same as fishing, but you gotta hatch eggs, which can take a very long time. If you guys have ever done Masuda method hunt in like Sword and Shield or like Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, sometimes you get unlucky and it feels super tedious. Now imagine that, but with an 1/8 of the odds of getting the shiny. Like, you are 8 times more likely to get it with Masuda method than this method. It can get extremely tedious. Especially in older games. It's really hard to hatch eggs quickly in older games, so it can get very difficult. So yeah, it's just no sane person will attempt this. It's just, I for one have always strayed away from full odds egg hatching, but I think I am gonna plan to do like 1 or 2 just because I think it would be interesting to do that at some point, but by no means this would not be my main method of shiny hunting. It's just, it's a bit much for getting a shiny Pokemon in my opinion. So I think it's valid in the tier that's the highest tier for now. So yeah, let me know if you've done any full odds egg hunts. Let me know if you've just like randomly hatched a shiny. I think that I saw someone on Twitter just randomly hatch a shiny full odds once, which is like crazy. So that's pretty cool. So let me know if that's ever happened to you. Next up, we have the odd egg in Pokemon Crystal. Now I have this symbol of an Igglybuff because that is the odd egg shiny I got from Igglybuff. I did count this as part of my Kanto shiny living dex, but I don't know. It seemed a bit too easy. It didn't really seem like I tried so hard. I literally hatched the egg once and got a shiny Igglybuff. That's just kind of the thing with odd egg. This is only present in Pokemon Crystal, but you can receive an odd egg from the old man at the daycare in Pokemon Crystal. You can save in front of him before you grab the egg, and then you have just a ridiculously high shiny chance. It's like harder to get certain regular Pokemon to hatch from the egg than just to get a shiny from the odd egg in general. It's just stupidly easy to get shinies from it. It only took me 1 egg hatch to get a shiny Igglybuff. I think like Pichu and like Tyrogue are like a little harder to get from those, so some people will try to specifically hunt for those shinies from the odd egg, which will take a lot longer, but just in general, getting a shiny from the odd egg is ridiculously easy. So if you got Pokemon Crystal, make sure you talk to the old man and get the odd egg. You'll probably get a shiny from it. Next up, we have breeding in Generation 2. Shiny breeding in Generation 2, I should say. I think I'm going to put it in valid hunting method. I kind of want to say too easy, but it really isn't. It's one of those things where because shinies are determined based on their IVs in Generation 2, if you have one parent that is a shiny Pokemon, I think it doesn't matter what gender the parent needs to be but I think you would prefer a male one so that you can get shinies of other Pokemon. So a good strategy for this is to reset the shiny Gyarados in the Lake of Rage until it's a male one, and then catch it, and you can use it for breeding. But essentially, if you have one shiny parent and one non-shiny parent, it passes the IVs down and you get a 1 in 64 chance at a shiny. I've never done this myself. I could be messing up the details a bit. I'm pretty sure it's just one of the Pokemon has to be shiny, but if both of them are shiny, it doesn't work. I think you can also technically do it with 2 non-shinies, but it's a lot more complicated. But yeah, essentially, breed a shiny with a non-shiny in Generation 2 only, which is Gold, Silver, Crystal, for those who are wondering. Only those games it works. And you get a 1 in 64 shiny chance. Now, 1 in 64 seems ridiculously easy, doesn't it? The trade-off with it, though, is that it takes absolutely forever to hatch the eggs in Generation 2. There's no Magma Armor, there's no Flame Body, none of those abilities to increase the chance of hatching an egg. It also takes a while for Pokemon to even get an egg. There's no Oval Charm. It's just it takes way too long to get a few checks, but you have a really high shiny chance, which makes it, I think it balances out in my opinion. So that's why we're gonna put in Valid Hunting Method. If you're dedicated, it might seem too easy, but I feel like it's pretty standard in terms of how it's balanced. So take that as you will. I don't wanna say too easy because that would be, I feel like that'd be a bit of an injustice for it. Next up, we have Gift Egg Pokemon. Now, we're just gonna chuck this straight up as no sane person will attempt this. It's essentially the same as Full Odds Egg Hatching. The difference is with Full Odds Egg Hatching, you can get to a point where you're getting like a lot of eggs hatching pretty closely together by like filling your party up with eggs and then hatching them, filling them up with eggs, hatching them, and it can be a little bit faster. With Full Odds Gift Egg Pokemon, like for example, I think it's what Mr. Pokemon gives you the Togepi egg in Generation 2 or Heart Gold Soul Silver. I think Cynthia gives you a Togepi egg in Platinum or Diamond Pearl or one of those 3. Essentially, you save before you talk to said NPC, and then you grab the egg and then hatch it. The really long hatching time, and then you get the 1 in 8192 chance of getting that Pokemon shiny. If not, you have to reset your game, talk to the NPC again, and get one more additional check after hatching it. So it's just ridiculously hard. It's just, I mean, if I were to order these, I'd say it's harder than just standard Full Odds Egg Hatching, so we're gonna put it higher than that. But it's essentially Full Odds Egg Hatching, you just can't get as many eggs at once. Next up, we have Shiny Roamers. Now, this varies. There are certain games I would say no sane person will attempt this. But I think in general, I would say a bit difficult. There are some roamers that are pretty easy to get, like I think it's the genies in Black and White. As soon as you talk to them the first time, you can simply check your dex to see if they're shiny, and then you'll know. You don't have to find them roaming to check if they're shiny. But for the most part, the way it works is you save before you generate said Pokemon. In this image, I have shiny Latias, but basically you save before you talk to your mom after beating the champion in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. And when she asks like about the color or something and whatever, you talk to the I think Ruby, Sapphire, you have to talk to the TV, and then in Emerald you talk to your mom and she asks you which one you're like picking essentially. You essentially save before that happens, and I don't even think Emerald is possible to hunt them in, but regardless, you save before they are generated, before they start roaming, and then you have to find them, locate them, and then check to see if they're shiny. And for the most part, they are full odds, 1 in 8192 or 1 in 4096 if you're doing Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, 1 in 4096. But it's just a really tedious hunt. It's just a way harder method than a soft reset hunt. I will say though, the reason why it's a bit difficult is that there are some roamers that are pretty easy. Like, I don't think, if in terms of me, I'm going off of my personal opinions, there are certain roamers I just probably would never attempt. It would be like the Generation 3 roaming Suicune and Raikou in Fire Red Leaf Green. I'm unsure about Latias and Latios. I might attempt those at some point, but you can't even really track them in your dex unless you have already obtained one, which I don't even think it's possible with the roaming legendaries in Fire Red Leaf Green, because it doesn't even let you trade for Generation 2 or 3 Pokemon until you essentially generate them. The Generation 3 roamers are like ridiculously hard. And then the Generation 4 roamers are like way easier. So for Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, for Cresselia and Mesprit, obviously you save before they're generated, but then you can just use your Pokédex to track them down and just run back and forth between a route. Usually like Sand Gem Town and the route it's right next to is like Route 202, 201, one of those. And you just wait until the little face on your Pokédex is in the same route you're at, and then you encounter it. It's just way faster. In games where you don't have the Pokédex, you essentially have to just go back and forth between routes with a Repel Trick down and hope you encounter it, and it could take a very long time before you get one encounter. I will say, however, I think the Heart Gold, Soul Silver ones, even though they're similar to the Generation 3 roamers, I think the Heart Gold, Soul Silver ones are a lot easier because it's just a lot faster to ride your bike between the city and the patch of grass to just refresh them where they're going. So I honestly might attempt doing like Entei and Raikou in Heart Gold, Soul Silver at some point because that actually seems kind of cool. And then I'm without a doubt gonna attempt Cresselia and Mesprit at some point because those ones are probably the easiest ones, excluding the genies. For the most part, that's why it's a bit difficult. Some of them are really hard, some of them are a lot easier, but I feel like it's just hard, soft resets. It's kind of borderline, honestly, but there's no borderline tier, so we're gonna put it in a bit difficult. We're definitely putting it higher than Generation 1 Hunting, 100%. Next, we have Safari Zone. We're just gonna put this in Valid Hunting Method. Now, there are some Pokemon that are really, really, really hard to get shiny in the Safari Zone. Obviously, the icon is Chansey. There are other ones like Kangaskhan, Tauros, Pinsir, Scyther. There's probably Drapion. Like, there's a bunch of ridiculously hard shinies to get in the Safari Zone. Now, if you end up getting one, sometimes they're just low encounter rates. It's the same as random encounters, but they're also low encounter rates. And on top of that, they have a low chance of even being caught, and they can run from you in the Safari Zone. So that's what makes them ridiculously difficult. Actually, we're changing this. We're putting it in a bit difficult. The reason for this is that a lot of the times you will find a shiny after spending hours looking for a shiny, and then you won't even be able to catch it. So that's why I'm putting it at a bit difficult. There are some Pokemon, like for example, Chansey. If you're specifically going for like Chansey, Tauros, all of the iconically hard Safari Zone Pokemon to get, that would be no sane person will attempt this. But in general, Safari Zone shiny hunting, I'd say a bit difficult. You get way faster encounters because you don't throw your Pokemon out in battle, so you can get shinies relatively quickly. You just will probably not catch many shinies in the Safari Zone. Next up, we have the Runaway Method. Runaway Method, I'm gonna say is too easy. The reason for this is because it's essentially like soft resetting, but there are certain like legendaries, certain just Pokemon in general, that when you encounter them and then run from them, you can regenerate them without having to reset your game and wait for the game to load up again. It's just way faster methods of soft resets, in my opinion. Like, I have the Shaymin symbol there. Shaymin is one of the easiest, like, mythical or shiny legendaries to get, assuming you can encounter it. Obviously, there's events and stuff that lock it, so it's not super easy. You know, honestly, I feel like if I'm putting Runaways in too easy, I feel like we gotta put random encounters in too easy. Just because of the sheer time. It's like the same method, but they're both fast. No. We're not gonna put these in too easy. We're gonna put them in order of difficulty though. So I'm going to probably rank these among their tiers on their own, but for the most part, they're all gonna be valid methods because they're very similar methods. Some are easy, some are harder, but essentially Runaways is like easy soft resets, basically. So that's why it's in valid hunting methods. I'll organize them accordingly at the end of the video. Next up, we have Game Corner. Now, depending on who you ask, I think I gotta put Game Corner in too easy. I think I have to do it because there's certain Pokemon, like say you go to the Game Corner, you want to shiny hunt Porygon. You can only buy one Porygon at a time. So it's essentially the same as a soft reset hunt. It's like exactly the same. But then there's Abra. For those who don't know, shiny Abra in Fire Red and Leaf Green is specifically Leaf Green is like one of the easiest 1 in 8, 192 shinies you can get, because in the Game Corner, if you max out your coins, you can either do the slot machines to max out your coins, or you can simply buy them. It's actually really easy to grind money in Fire Red and Leaf Green, and then you can just buy as many coins as you want until you hit the max 9999. I believe in Leaf Green you can buy like 80 Abras at once. It's not at once, you have to buy them one at a time, but the fact that you can buy like 80 Abras in a reset just makes it go by super fast. This is the epitome of like, if someone is new and is thinking about shiny hunting, I would totally recommend shiny hunting for Abra in the game corner. It is one of the easiest shiny hunting methods you can do, especially with full odds. I think, in my opinion, if you're gonna start shiny hunting, I would start in full odds, because then you'll get an appreciation for all forms of shiny hunting, as opposed to only wanting to do, say, Masuda Method or Pokey Radar and then not wanting to even touch full odds because the odds are too low. But I started with the game corner. That was my first shiny hunt. I did Dratini in the game corner, and you get hooked on it. It's crazy, and you can buy them pretty quickly. So we're gonna say too easy. I think that's got to be the first one that's too easy. Next up, we have Shadow Shinies in Coliseum / XD Gale of Darkness. We're gonna put this in no sane person will attempt this. Are we? Yeah, we are. It depends. Yeah, we definitely are. If you want to do it like fully legitimately in Coliseum, the issue with the Shadow Shinies in Coliseum, and I guess XD, but XD you have to do a shiny lock removal for them because they are shiny locked. In Coliseum though, the way it works is when you're battling one of the trainers and they have a shadow Pokemon, you can see its shadow, it will never show up as shiny. I think there's a few exceptions. They can show up as shiny when the opponent throws them out in battle, but for the most part, they won't show up as shiny. You have to then catch the Pokemon, and at that point, it will generate if it's shiny or not, and then you have to check to see if it's shiny. The reason why this is really hard is because it's a soft reset hunt, but not only do you have to catch the Pokemon from a trainer, it's a double battle, and odds are you'll have to defeat a few Pokemon on their team first, then catch them, and they're pretty hard to catch, so a lot of people will hack in Master Balls to do it, but if you're doing it fully legitimately and are not using Master Balls, it will take a while just to get one check, and then you check to see if it's shiny. You either throw it back out in battle, or you just check your Pokemon summaries to see if it's shiny. That's pretty much it, but it's just a very long way of hunting. It's kind of like roamers, honestly. No, we're gonna keep it like this, because roamers have some easier ways of going about them. Shadow Shinies, that's pretty much it. It's just the only way is the tedious process of getting one check. So we're gonna put Shadow Shinies, and no sane person will attempt this. I do plan to do a shiny shadow hunt at some point too, because it'd be really cool to do like a ribbon quest with a shiny, and the only way to do that is a shadow shiny, because when you purify a shadow, you get a unique ribbon for that. So I think that'd be pretty cool. Next up, we have the Coliseum bonus disc shiny hunt, which is pretty much Jirachi, and honestly, I think we're gonna put that like here. There's an easier method to get Jirachi in terms of corrupting your save data, so you don't have to keep restarting your save file every time. But essentially, I explained this in my hardest Pokemon shiny hunt video. You pretty much only get one Jirachi per save file, and when it's not shiny, you have to restart your save file and play through up until you get the Pokedex again, and then check again. Unless you do the save data corruption method, where you corrupt your save data, it loads the backup save of before you receive Jirachi, and then you do it again. It's a lot faster, but still a really tedious process, and the corruption might not work every time, so you might still have to play through your game up until the Pokedex every time anyway. So we're just gonna put it in no sane person will attempt this, but it's gonna be kind of paired with the Shadow Shinies in terms of it's like not really that difficult, just tedious. Next up, we have the Generation 2 starters in Generation 3. There's gonna be a lot of Generation 2 starters specifically. Now, the reason why these are hard, I put them in no sane person will attempt this, is because the only valid way of getting shiny starters from Johto in Generation 3 games is to either have Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, and you have to play through all of Mount Battle, and you have to save before you do the final battle in Mount Battle. Also, you cannot switch your Pokemon out in PCs throughout the entire 100. You have to do the 100 battle straight up without changing your team at all. You can swap them in your party, but you can't change your team with different Pokemon. Do 100 battles straight. After the 99th battle, you have to save before you walk up to the 100th, because you'll go right into the battle. And then you battle the final boss on Mount Battle. He's pretty tough, and after you beat him, he'll give you the choice of what Johto starter you want to check. and it can be shiny. You get one choice between the 3, but if you do it again after you pick one, you can get the other ones and like do it again, get all 3 of them. Essentially, it's a soft reset hunt, but it's really long because you have to beat the final boss in the game essentially every time you want to do one check for a 1 in 8,192 shiny. And yeah, there are methods to make the battle a little easier, but regardless, you still have to battle someone every time you want to check to see if a Pokemon is shiny. And then that's how you get the shiny Johto starters. The other method is to breed for them, do full odds egg hatching essentially. And then I think there is one method you can do in Emerald. You can essentially soft reset for them. Emerald's RNG is broken and it goes by frames, and your frames are predetermined when you start your save file up. But I think there's a method to refresh your frames doing it's like a battle recorded video playback, something like that with battle time. I don't know the details. I've never done it before, but there is a way to soft reset for the starters in Emerald, but I believe you do have to complete the full Pokedex in order to even get to that point, and then it's still kind of a janky process in resetting for them because of Emerald's broken RNG, so we'll just say no sane person will attempt this, and this is specifically for Johto starters in Generation 3 games, so Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Coliseum, XD. Next up, we have Pokespots in Coliseum and XD. Or is it only XD? Aren't they? They're in Coliseum, right? I think they are. I don't remember. I own XD and I've only played Coliseum once, so I actually don't remember. But essentially, we're just going to put it in a bit difficult. They're like harder soft resets. You just have to fill up the Pokespots with the food, the Poke Snacks, and then you essentially go to a town or city or whatever, and you just run around by the exit of the city while you constantly save over and over again until you get to a point where your radar will go off and tell you there's a Pokemon at a Pokespot, and then you try to save as close to before that happens as possible, and then once the radar goes off, the Pokemon's generated, then you exit the area and check the Pokespot to see if it's shiny, and you just reset from that. So it's just like slightly harder soft resets basically. Next up, we have Pokey Radar. Now, I think Pokey Radar is one of the coolest shiny hunting methods. We are gonna chuck it in too easy. The reason for this is because if we are strictly going off of the 40 chain, I would say, are we even shiny hunting at this point? Especially in the older games. In Generation 4, the chain will stay as long as you encounter the same Pokemon over and over again. So if you get a chain of 40, you can just farm shinies until you somehow get a shiny patch that's not the same Pokemon. But you can just farm shinies. So that would be, are we even shiny hunting at this point? They balanced it more in BDSP, so it's a lot better. It's a lot more fair. It's a lot easier to break the chain, and it's not dependent on encountering the same Pokemon anymore. That being said, if you know how to do it, it's like you can still get shinies in like a half hour. I taught my cousin how to use it in BDSP, and he literally got 2 shiny Starlies in like a half hour or so. There are ways to full odds hunt for it though. There's 2 methods to go about full odds hunting. I did one of them in one of my recent videos. I will link it. I'm doing a playthrough in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl where I only use shiny Pokemon, and I ended up full odds radar hunting. Now the way I did it was the easier method, where you essentially just run the radar with a 0 chain until you get a shiny patch, and even though it's full odds, you get 4 patches every time, and it only takes roughly 10 seconds to get the 50 steps in to refresh your radar. So you can get so many encounters per hour to the point where it only took me a half hour to get like 500 encounters and to get a shiny patch, which is hilarious that it was still full odds. But the hard way to do it is to try to chain for a Pokemon, and then if you encounter a non-shiny patch while you're chaining and it's shiny, it's full odds. But that's a lot more tedious because you'll be breaking chains, you'll be avoiding shiny patches theoretically, and it just will take a lot longer. So that would be more of a bit difficult, or no sane person will attempt this. But just in general, I'm going to balance it out and say Pokey Radar is a little too easy. Next up, we have the Honey Trees. Now, the Honey Trees, I think I'm going to say a bit difficult in general. There are certain Pokemon that I would say are no sane person would attempt this, specifically Heracross and Munchlax. If you're wondering why you've never even encountered a Heracross or Munchlax from a honey tree, it's because Heracross is only a 1% encounter rate from a honey tree, unless it's a Munchlax tree. Then it goes up to a whopping 3%, yay. And there's only 4 Munchlax trees in the entire game in Sinnoh, and it's based on your secret IDs, so it's different every save file what Munchlax trees are. The 4 Munchlax trees are available on your map. And then if you get a Munchlax tree, Munchlax is only 1% on that. So the reason why that is ridiculously hard is because you have to first locate your Munchlax tree, and then what happens is you put honey on it, you have to wait the 6 hours, and then on top of that, odds are you won't even get the Pokemon. And as soon as you put the honey on, the species of Pokemon is generated. So it's probably gonna be a Combi, it's probably gonna be a Cherubi, it's probably gonna be a Burmy, will not be Munchlax. After you get said Pokemon, it's just a simple soft reset hunt. That's why it's only on a bit difficult. So hardest part is getting the Munchlax or Heracross if you're specifically going for those. Other than that, it's just a simple soft reset hunt, with the only difference is you have to wait 6 hours before you can start the hunt. Both in Generation 8 in BDSP and in Generation 4 Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, there are ways to keep the Pokemon from going away on the tree. I think in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, you can do methods of like swapping the cartridge in different DSs and stuff and changing the time or something like that, and it's kind of weird. But in BDSP, it's a lot easier. All you have to do is change your time or date slightly, and it'll lock you for 24 hours, and you just keep doing that until you get the shinies, so that it keeps locking the Pokemon on the tree for 24 hours over and over again. So yeah, specifically Heracross and Munchlax, no sane person will attempt this, but any other Pokemon is pretty much just a soft reset hunt. But next up, we have double encounters with an NPC, and this is for the most part in Generation 4 and BDSP. I forget if there's any other games that do this, but obviously there's Cheryl in Eterna Forest, there's Buck in Stark Mountain, there's Riley in Iron Island, and then there's Mira in Wayward Cave. You pair up with them, and when you encounter Pokemon, you get 2 at once because it's a double battle every time. So it's essentially random encounters as per usual, but you get twice as many encounters. Just easier version of random encounters, in my opinion. I think in Wayward Cave and maybe in like Stark Mountain and Iron Island, they're a little slower encounters. But next up, we have Masuda Method. I'm gonna say Masuda Method is a valid hunting method. Now, obviously, there's still egg hatching involved. Obviously, it's harder in some games, it's easier in some games, but for the most part, the odds balance with how fast you can hatch eggs. Now, obviously, you can get some super fast shinies using Masuda Method, but if you go, let me tell you, if you go over odds with Masuda Method, it feels terrible. So, in my opinion, it's one of the more boring shiny hunting methods, but I think it's one of the standards for like balanced shiny hunting methods that I usually base things off of. So it's gonna go with invalid hunting method. Next up, we have the Sinjo Ruins Creation Trio. No sane person will attempt this. This is soft reset hunts, but the cutscene is like 5 minutes long, so it's like a 5-minute reset every time. And it's a 1 in 8192 shiny hunt, so if you do quick maths, I guess I'll put it on screen now. That's how many hours it'll take for you just to hit odds for the shiny. I actually don't know if it's a 5-minute reset hunt. I've never done it, but I mean, I could always go to a YouTube video of someone who did it and time it. And, you know, maybe I'll do that. So me editing the video, we'll see. How long will it take to hit odds for a shiny Sinjo Ruin? And that's not even to be guaranteed the shiny. That's just to hit odds. If you go over odds for this, it's over, man. It is cool that you can get a level 1 shiny legendary. I think that's really cool, but I'm not ready for that. Next up, we have the Heart Gold Soul Silver, the Johto starters in Heart Gold Soul Silver. We're putting those on too easy. These are another staple of like the easiest 1 in 8192 shinies you can hunt for. It's basically you start off, you save right before you pick up your starter. You can spin the little machine around to check them, and you can see if they're shiny before you pick them up. And you essentially get 3 encounters every reset, and they're pretty quick resets because you don't have to actually look at their summaries. You can just scroll through and see the little sprite and see if it's shiny or not. Really easy. You can get so many encounters for these really fast, so too easy. One of the better 1 in 8192 shiny hunting methods I would recommend for anyone who's trying to get into full odds hunting. Shiny Manaphy from Pokemon Ranger. No sane person will attempt this. It was the hardest shiny to get in my last tier list. It's just way too hard. I don't really want to have to explain it again. It's just full odds egg hatching but having to restart save files and trade a bunch and all that stuff. It is ridiculous. It's full odds egg hatching, but much worse. Next up, we have double grass encounters, or I guess dark grass encounters in Generation 5. I guess I'm gonna put them at 2 easy because it's essentially the same as the team up NPC double encounters. It's essentially the same thing. You're not guaranteed 2 encounters every time when you do the double or the dark grass encounters in Generation 5. For the most part, you're essentially double hunting with a single console, so it's pretty quick. So it's a really cool shiny hunting method, and I would definitely recommend it for a lot of people. Next up, we have the starters in Generation 6. They are, and this is specifically X and Y, starters in ORAS, and for the most part, starters in general are just the same as reset hunts. But what makes the starters in X and Y special is that I believe it's like a 3-minute cutscene, or a 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes or something like that. It's more like, when you're pushing more than a minute for one encounter at a full odd shiny, it gets really hard. Now, this is nowhere near the level of like the Manaphy or the Togepi, the gift egg hatches and whatnot, but it's very similar in the sense where it takes a while just to get one encounter. Next up, we have Friend Safari. We're gonna put that in Are We Even Shiny Hunting at this point. Now, I know the balance of Friend Safari is that you have to add more people on your friends list on the 3DS to have access to more Pokemon, but essentially it's Masuda Method hunting odds, but you get random encounters. So it's like you get these odds for this quick of encounters. Like that is just broken. You'll get a shiny in like 20 minutes, let's be real. So are we even shiny hunting at this point? It's just, we're the same with chain fishing. We're gonna do the same with chain fishing. Chain fishing, if you have a Pokemon with the ability Sticky Hold or Suction Cups, and you get a bunch of like rocks around you and fish in the same spot over and over again, I don't even think you have to KO the Pokemon. I think you just run from them. Because you just consecutively catch fish in a row. You get, after like 20 in a row, you get like a 1 in 100 chance at a shiny, which is like really high odds, like a 1% chance at a shiny. Freaking Safari Zone Chansey non-shiny is more rare than that. So are we even shiny hunting at this point? Probably not. We're just kind of getting shinies without drawing. Next up, we have Horde Hunting. Horde Hunting, I'm going to say 2 easy. I think Horde Hunting is one of the most fun hunting methods. It's basically full odds hunting, unless you have Shiny Charm, but it's essentially full odds hunting, but you get 5 encounters each time. You just get a lot more encounters at once, but it's still full odds, and it's really cool in my opinion. It's similar to doing the Pokey Radar with the 0 chain and just running it until you find a shiny patch. It's a very similar concept to that, but I think more exciting in my opinion, because you still get to see the encounter happen, and then a shiny might show up, and it's a lot cooler that way. Next up, we have Dexnav. I think I just gotta put this on 2 easy. I don't really know exactly the odds of Dexnav, but I think they're pretty high if you get your chain going. And I don't even know if there's a chain. I forget. There was so many conflicting theories as to how it worked. I think it is only dependent on the research level. I don't think you need a chain for it. You just get a standard set shiny rate once you have a certain research level. But to get that research level up, you have to KO the Pokemon every time. And it can get to the point where you can get shinies really fast using it. Like, I think it's like a couple Dexnav hunts I did only took me like 100 encounters or something. So we'll say 2 easy, but it is more of a process than, say, chain fishing. So next up, we have the Alola Starters in Generation 7. Same deal with the Generation 6 starters. Just really long cutscene. It's a little better in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I think in Sun and Moon, it's like a 3 to 4 minute cutscene they have to sit through. And then in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, I think it's like a 1.5 minutes. So it's like significantly better in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But essentially, starter resets for the Gen 7 starters in Gen 7 games. Pretty darn hard. So, I mean, there's not much more to say about this. A lot of these are going to be very similar concepts at this point moving forward. There's only a few more methods left I have. Next up, we have SOS. SOS is fun. It actually really is a fun hunting method, but it'd be borderline between 2 easy and valid, because I think the odds are actually pretty high. But after like every 250 chain, it'll reset your shiny odds, and then you essentially start from square one. But for the most part, it shouldn't take you too long to get a shiny this way unless you get really unlucky. So I guess we'll just put it in 2 easy. We'll put it at like the higher end of 2 easy. We'll put it kind of near Pokey Radar, I guess. That seems fair. Next up, we have Wormhole Hunting in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. We're putting this on Are We Even Shiny Hunting at this point. This thing, it's based on how far you go in the wormholes, and I'm not including the legendaries that you get or the Ultra Beasts, because those are just reset hunts. Those aren't affected by how far you get in the wormhole. But any other regular Pokemon that you can encounter in the wormholes, depending on how far you go, they can have up to a 1 in 3 chance of being shiny. I accidentally did one wormhole thing and encountered a shiny Audino that way. Just first try. That's how easy it is to get. Like, they're free shinies. They're basically like guaranteed at this point, unless you suck at the game, at the mini game to play beforehand. But essentially, it's just way too easy. It really takes the fun of shiny hunting out from me when they're that easy. But I mean, if you're down for it, that's all good. Next, we have catch comboing and Let's Go, and I'm gonna say that's too easy. I think Let's Go's shiny hunting method is a really valid hunting method with one glaring flaw. And that one glaring flaw is the fact that when you chain for a Pokemon and get the max combo with a lure down, you have a 1 in 273 chance at a shiny, which is pretty high, but it affects every Pokemon that spawns, not just the Pokemon you're chaining for. If it had only affected the Pokemon you're chaining for, it'd be way more valid, but you're gonna be chaining for a Pokemon and you're gonna get like a bunch of other Pokemon shiny to show up while you're doing it. It's just, with that many things spawning in at once, it's a bit too easy. That being said, you can still get really unlucky, and I've actually had my fair share of really bad luck in Let's Go, so it gives and it takes, but for the most part, you're gonna be seeing a lot more shinies in general. It'd be similar to like Pokey Radar, in my opinion, honestly. Next up, we have the NPC trades in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. We're just gonna put valid hunting method. It's kind of like random encounters resets, but you can just catch a bunch of the same Pokemon and just trade them constantly until you run out of the Pokemon they're looking for. And it can be really fast, but I'm unsure if they're affected by Shiny Charm or like catch combos and lures and stuff. I haven't done a hunt on those yet, so if they're full odds, I mean, still you can get them really fast. So, you know, it's valid, it's balanced, it's just kind of like random encounters, really. Brilliant. This is a really hard icon to see because I couldn't get a good screenshot of it, but it is the 500 knockout method for brilliant shinies in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, a lot of people didn't know how this worked, including myself, until recently. But essentially, the way it works is the more Pokemon you KO in your decks, for overworld Pokemon only, those Pokemon will have a higher chance of being brilliant in the wild, and those brilliant Pokemon will have a higher chance of being shiny. Now, it's very similar to Masuda Method hunt, but it can be easier or difficult depending on what you're going for, really. Basically, it's a lot easier if you're going for a really common Pokemon with a really high spawn rate in like the wild area, because once you get those like 100 KOs and you KO all the brilliants and stuff and you get the 500 KOs, you have a 1 in 455 shiny chance roughly, and the spawn rate can make the brilliant spawn quite a bit. I've done 3 hunts doing this, and none of them took me very long to get the shinies. That being said, I would say if you're trying to go for any overworld Pokemon that spawns at a 20% or less, this would be pretty difficult because the brilliant rate maxes out at 3%. So to get a 3% of, say, like a 15% Pokemon is actually pretty hard to do. And it would just get really old riding your bike back and forth just looking for brilliance. So it really depends on the Pokemon you're going for. It's a bit difficult if it's a low encounter rate Pokemon, and it's a bit easy if it's a high encounter rate Pokemon. So that's why it's just in the middle. Next up, we have the strong spawn resets in Sword and Shield. Now this one's really cool because there's actually a lot of really cool shiny hunts you can do with this, but essentially there's a method you can like set your dates differently and have it so that when you reset your game, the strong spawn will spawn on top of you, and it's a pretty standard soft reset hunt. Other than that, you will have to be far enough away from the Pokemon before you save, and then when you run closer or ride your bike closer to it, it'll spawn in and generate, and then you run into it to check to see if it's shiny. But for the most part, it's pretty much similar to a soft reset hunt. It can be a little easier, a little harder, depending on what version of the method you're doing. I think it's a little easier considering Sword and Shield doesn't have that long of load times for soft resetting, and when you have the Pokemon just spawn right on top of you immediately, there's not much waiting between checking the encounters, and it's actually a pretty fun method. There's some really cool Pokemon you can go for. Obviously, the icon has Licky Licky. I went for an Alakazam, and that was really cool. There's a lot of you guys didn't think Sword and Shield was that good for shiny hunting. I think it's one of the better shiny hunting games in my opinion. There's just a lot of variety to it. We have max raid battles. Now, I'm just gonna put this as no sane person will attempt this. This is because of the fact that we are not including exploits or glitches that will raise shiny odds. For example, there is a huge exploit to essentially guarantee shinies from max raid battles. We're not going to be including that. We're just going to say it's like a standard 1 in 4096 or 1 in 1365 shiny chance for a max raid battle. You don't get that many max raid battles, and in order to get more of them, you have to either wait for the day to change or you have to KO or like defeat all of them. And that just is really tedious. So if you get a full odds or just a shiny from a max raid battle that was not a raid you were invited to, it's insane. Because if it was a raid you were invited to, odds are it was just exploited. Yeah. Obviously, I'm also excluding the events. They have been doing events where they increase shiny odds a bunch. We're not going to include those. I don't even know if they're doing them anymore, but there was some like Magikarp, and they actually had a bunch of them, but those were limited time events. We're just not going to include those. But if we are including those, I would say either too easy or even shiny hunting at this point. It'd be like borderline between those. Next up, we have the 50% KO method. I'm just going to check this in a bit difficult. This, I have the Sinistea icon on it. This is how I got a shiny authentic Sinistea. I have a tutorial on my channel. I also have a video of me getting shiny authentic Sinistea. It had the rare mark. It was actually pretty cool, so check that out. Basically, the way it works is it's essentially like a reset hunt, but longer, because this is only really valid if you're going for a shiny that is an overworld spawn-in Sword and Shield, but it has a really low encounter rate, because you don't want to be riding your bike around for hours hoping this thing spawns in. Obviously, the best Pokemon to do this for would be for Sinistea and the Crown Tundra for the authentic one. But essentially what you do is you get said Pokemon. Say you're going for like a Munchlax. Say Munchlax is a really low encounter rate. You save in front of a Munchlax that has spawned in the overworld, and that Munchlax has already been determined, so it won't never be shiny unless it is on the first try, but it'll never be shiny. You encounter it, you KO it, and then the next Pokemon to spawn into the overworld is a 50% chance to be Munchlax again, which greatly increases its encounter rate. Obviously, if you're going for a Pokemon that's already like a 50% chance or up, it's not worth doing. But for a Pokemon like Sinistea, it does save forms. It does keep track of forms. So if you manage to find yourself an authentic Sinistea in the overworld, save in front of it, encounter it, KO it, and then have more Sinesteas spawn in. You KO them, and then you keep that chain going until something other than Sinistea spawns, and then you reset your game and do it again. So there's a lot of times when I was doing this that I just didn't even get any encounters per reset. So that's why I'd say it would be a bit difficult over the just regular resets, because they're essentially really long resets. And you're not even guaranteed to get the shiny you're going for. You can still phase about half the time. Next up, we have Dynamaxx Adventures. I'm going to put this on too easy. This might be controversial, but I'm thinking, like, I think it's kind of balanced in terms of its odds, depending on how long it takes to encounter the Pokemon. But if you have Shiny Charm, you get a 1 in 100 shiny chance, and then odds are in one Dynamaxx Adventure, you'll get 4 encounters each time. So it's one of those things, if you're going for a specific Legendary or Ultra Beast, it can be a bit difficult, it can be a bit tedious, but odds are you'll phase a bunch. It's very similar to like that of Catch Comboing and Let's Go. You'll just get a lot of shinies as collateral damage over trying to just get one shiny in it, because the odds are so high. Next up, we have the Underground Diglett method in BDSP. I actually don't know enough about this method to really say if it's valid or not. I'm just going to put it in a bit difficult, because what I can tell is that all of the Pokemon in the Underground are full odds, and in BDSP, you can't affect your shiny odds with the Shiny Charm unless you're hatching eggs with Masuda Method. So essentially every Pokemon is always going to be full odds. If you collect 40 Digletts in the Underground, though, you get about like 5 minutes of 1 in 2048 odds, which is like not that great, and the trade-off is that if you're playing online, odds are you'll have a lot more people to be collecting Digletts for you, but that just isn't the case. I've been doing a lot of digging, a lot of encounters and stuff online and stuff, and you pretty much have to be the main person to put in the work for collecting the Digletts just for one additional shiny roll every encounter, and it's only for like 5 minutes. It's not that great of a shiny hunting method. It's essentially like full odds hunting, but it's just not as good. I don't want to put it in a bit difficult though. It's pretty much like full odds hunting. It's just nothing special about the hunting method in my opinion. So that's more of an opinion based, but in terms of difficulty, it's pretty much the same as like random encounters and stuff like that. So kind of a low tier shiny hunting method in my opinion, but in terms of difficulty, it's just going to be middle of the line. And finally, we have the newest shiny hunting method in Legends Arceus, or Arceus, depending on who you ask. I'm just going to say Arceus. I know it's technically pronounced Arceus, but at the same time, we all know it's pronounced Raikou, but none of us call it Raikou, we call it Raikou. But after that rant, essentially, Outbreak method, mass outbreaks in Legends Arceus, it's are we even shiny hunting at this point? It gives you like 27 extra rolls at a shiny, and if you have like the shiny charm and like the full dex completed and whatnot, which is how you get the shiny charm in the first place, so I guess you would have that, you get like a 1 in 128 chance of a shiny in an outbreak. And what makes it even more broken is you don't get that many encounters per outbreak. So like I get that, but you can save right before you enter the outbreak and then just reset the outbreak and get like a bunch of encounters at once with ridiculously high shiny odds. It's like the most free thing I've ever seen. It is like the same as Wormhole shinies in my opinion. It's just not exciting to get shinies in that using that method, honestly. It's stupid. It's really stupid. Because obviously if you're filling out the decks, you get higher shiny odds in general. When you get a research level 10, you get a 1 in 2048 shiny chance. And then when you complete a full dex page to make it perfect, you get a 1 in 1024 shiny chance. I feel like those odds, even full odds, with this method would have been valid. I don't think they needed to increase the shiny odds in an outbreak at all. It just makes no sense to me because you can just reset for them and get like 10 encounters at once and then reset for that, and it'd be very similar to like double hunting, horde hunting. It would be that similar concept. They just made it stupidly high shiny odds, so it's like the most free shinies I've ever seen in a Pokemon game. It's ridiculous. But that's my rant. If you guys enjoy that shiny hunting method, let me know. I don't. But that's okay to disagree. If you're totally fine with the really easy shiny hunting methods, let me know in the comments below. I do want to kind of organize these based on difficulty. Not much has really changed in the organization of this tier list. For the most part, all of the no sane person will attempt this. They're all pretty similar in terms of how difficult they are to shiny hunt, excluding Manaphy. I think Manaphy's on like a whole nother level. Just because it's like one thing after the other that's similar to these, but also restarting your game and trading, it adds to it. Pretty much everything else in here is just like either full odds egg hatching or long resets. So they are all pretty similar. Other than that, these are pretty similar. Honestly, now that I think about it, we're just gonna put roamers on the bottom of no sane person will attempt this because other than that, these ones seem pretty balanced to me. It's just like soft resets that take a little longer, fast encounters, but you'll fail them. Like the Safari Zone's probably the oddball out, the odd one out here, but it's kind of valid. Valid hunting methods. I think this is like, I have the Diglett as like the hardest valid hunting method, but it's pretty much the same as any other reset or random encounter hunt. You just have the added bonus of higher shiny chance that isn't, but you have to kind of grind for it. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's easier even with the higher shiny chance. So, well, like they're all pretty similar. It's pretty much just resets or random encounter. It's all just like standard shiny hunting stuff. And then we got Masuda Method in here, which is like not ridiculously hard eggs. So there's that. Then we got too easy. We got the Game Corner. Game Corner is kind of borderline because there are some that are pretty much the same as just the regular standard soft resets and stuff, but then there's some that you can get a lot of. And then for the most part, it's a lot of like multiple encounters at once. Like we got the black and white. I think obviously the black and white would be lower. Oh wait, no, this is more difficult. This is more difficult because you're not guaranteed 2. And then these you're guaranteed 2. These you're guaranteed 3. These you're guaranteed 5. So it's all just like how many encounters you get at once. Then we got the SOS, which is just higher shiny odds, basically. Same with Dexnav. I feel like those are pretty even. Dynamaxx Adventures, I feel, are very similar to Let's Go in the sense that they're not the highest shiny odds, but actually Dynamaxx Adventures are shiny odds. It takes longer to get an encounter. But odds are you'll phase a lot going for one thing, and it's just the shinies are a little too high of odds. Then we got Pokey Radar, which I think is the easiest. There's a lot of ways to hunt Pokey Radar, and I think they're all pretty easy, excluding full odds chaining. I think full odds chaining is pretty hard, but other than that, I think it's pretty easy. Then I didn't even feel the need to like organize these. I feel like all of these ones down here are just way too easy. It doesn't even matter. So that is my full tier list for the hardest shiny hunting methods. Please let me know if there was some unique method I left out. I tried to be specific with some things. I didn't want to be specific with everything because of how long it would have taken to make this video, but obviously I changed my mind about the Glimwood Tangle Hunt because it's just a runaway. I have realized that it's just a runaway hunt. So yeah, so pretty much let me know if there's any other like crazy hard shiny hunts that I did not include. Obviously I tried to be really specific and list every possible way to get a shiny, but you know, there's a lot of different ways to shiny hunt. I'm bound to have missed some. So let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you thought on this tier list, and if you have any of these shinies that you have successfully hunted these ways. Let me know if you've done any of these shiny hunts and have gotten the shinies that way. So that is gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, ring those notification bells, all that good stuff. Be sure to join the domination, and I will see you in the next video.